troublesome thing for me standing here. But let me tackle two sets of issues very quickly, which are not irrelevant to the kind of discourse that we are having. The first is, I mentioned earlier on the Great Recession. Now, some people think that because you now have 2, 3, or 4, 5% growth, and now 7.5% in China, or close to 6% eventually in India over the next year, we are now beyond the recession. We're not. The after effects of the recession are still pretty much with us. And what are some of those? The first is there's an interesting let's call it tension developing between developed economies and emerging markets. Since May last year, when the US announced what they call tapering of quantitative easing, and particularly since October last year, when we got closer to the point where the first batch of tapering actually happened in December, we've had a sudden switch in the narrative. Until then, emerging markets were great for investment. Suddenly, emerging markets are not great for investment. And it's in our collective interest to understand why did this switch happen? What can we do again to put out a positive narrative about South Africa? Now, we need to be humble and quite straightforward about our own weaknesses as a country and as a government and as a society. But those weaknesses don't overwhelm the good things that we have going for us at this point in time. And too much of our discourse and narrative is about the negative overwhelming the positive. And we'll pay a price for that as we go on, because investors will actually say, I can go somewhere else with my money, because we're not creating the right kind of environment